Hello there, you're watching All 24 News World News Program. I'm your host Islam Said, and up next are tonight's top stories. Algerian Sonatrach signed $1.35 billion hydrocarbon deal with Italian Eni. Algeria and Singapore expands cooperation, and Rubio calls relations with Algiers strong. New French hate campaign exposed. Misinformation masked behind Sansal case to target Algeria's sovereignty. Also on news tonight, dozens of martyrs in fresh Zionist strikes across Gaza Strip as the death toll of 8 seekers rise amid the escalating violence in the 8 distribution points. And later on, Zionist strikes hit Yemeni ports. Houthis target occupied Palestine, and Tehran reveals Zionist assassination plot against its president. 4 reports up next. Welcome back to the program. First off, on news tonight, Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune met Monday with Eni CEO Claudio Descalze to discuss energy cooperation. Also present were top Algerian energy officials, including Sonatrach CEO Rachid Hashishi. Descalze praised the exceptional partnership with Algeria, revealing Eni's investments will top $8 billion. He also confirmed plans with Sonatrach to boost gas output by up to 7 billion cubic meters a year.
Les relations sont très bonnes.
Our strong partnership with Sonatrach and Algerian institutions feels like a second home. If current projects succeed, our investment will exceed $8 billion. We've just signed a key $1.3 billion deal to boost production immediately and are preparing further projects to raise output to 5 and 7 billion cubic meters annually, including renewable energy initiatives.
Similarly, Algeria's Sonatrach and Italy's Eni signed a $1.35 billion deal on Monday to explore and develop hydrocarbons in Algeria's Zamoul Beard block near Hassi Massoud. Sonatrach CEO Rachid Hashishi said the 30-year contract, extendable by 10 years, includes a 7-year exploration phase. The project is expected to yield around 414 million barrels of oil equivalent and 9.3 billion cubic meters of gas.
التوقيع على عقد للمحروقات.
A hydrocarbon contract based on a production sharing model was signed between the Sonatrach Group and the Italian company Eni, one of our strategic partners, for the exploration and exploitation of hydrocarbons in the contractual perimeter of Zamlat al-Kbar, located in the Barkine Basin, approximately 300 kilometers east of Hassi Massoud. The contract spans 30 years, with the possibility of a 10-year extension, and includes an exploration phase lasting 7 years. A significant total investment of $1.35 billion has been allocated to this project, which is expected to yield a total production of 115 million barrels of oil equivalent, including 9.3 billion cubic meters of natural gas over the full duration of the contract.
Sonatrach and Italy's Eni signed a new deal to export dry gas from Algeria's Zamoul Beard field. Both sides also inked a framework agreement with Eni Training University to boost Sonatrach's technical skills, reinforcing their shared focus on knowledge transfer and innovation in energy.
بالإضافة إلى عقد المحروقات للاستكشاف والاستغلال المحروقات.
In addition to the hydrocarbon contract with Eni for exploration and exploitation of hydrocarbons in Zamlat al-Kbar, a gas agreement will be signed to outline terms for exporting dry gas from the area. A separate framework agreement with Eni and its corporate university will also be concluded to boost cooperation in human resource development.
Still with Algeria's related news, President Abdelmajid Tebboune received Jordan's ambassador Shakarat al-Alamouche on Monday for a farewell visit as his mission in Algeria ends. The envoy praised the strong ties between the two nations, calling them excellent and at their best.
لقد تشرفت اليوم بلقاء فخامة الرئيس عبد المجيد تبون.
I had the honor of bidding farewell to President Abdulmajid Tebboune today, conveying the greetings of His Majesty King Abdullah II and his wishes for Algeria's continued progress. I've completed my mission in Algeria and will return to Jordan. Jordanian-Algerian relations are at their best and will remain strong under the care of both leaders.
On the diplomatic front, Algeria and Singapore agreed to broaden cooperation in key sectors, including industry, agriculture, digitalization, startups, urban management, and education. Foreign Ministers Ahmed Attaf and Vivian Balakrishnan hailed their successful ties in port management and manufacturing. Both sides also reviewed ways to deepen their partnership by tapping into shared opportunities and strength. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio hailed the strong and lasting partnership between Algeria and the United States in a message marking Algeria's Independence Day. He expressed hope to further boost cooperation, especially in trade and people-to-people ties.
On behalf of the United States of America, I congratulate the Algerian government and people on the 63rd anniversary of Independence Day, marked on July 5th. On this occasion, we reflect on strong and enduring partnership between our countries, and we look forward to continued cooperation, especially in the areas of trade opportunities and people-to-people exchange. Together, we can build a brighter future for both our nations.
President Abdelmadjid Tebboune urged stronger efforts to build a viable automotive industry through ongoing manufacturing projects aiming for an industrial share of at least 12% of Algeria's GDP. He praised honest investors working to revive the sector, distancing it from past corruption. President Abdelmadjid Tebboune also stressed Algeria's strict anti-corruption measures as the cabinet approved new laws targeting money laundering, terrorism financing, and personal data protection. He further called for heightened vigilance against fires during harvest season amid rising temperatures. And as you followed in our tonight's headlines, the Algerian news agency says writer Boualem Sansal is used as a pretext for yet another smear campaign against the country. In a telegram on Monday night, the agency stressed that President Abdelmadjid Tebboune's July 5 pardon did not include Sansal, dismissing claims fueled by the French far right, which it still hasn't accepted Algeria's independence. The news agency added that Boualem Sansal was tried for an internal case affecting national unity, described as a red line for any sovereign state. In a cable Monday night, the agency rejected claims he was a hostage, noting he is an Algerian citizen, university graduate, and retired official. It also criticized parts of France's political class for using his case to meddle in Algeria while ignoring France's own citizens jailed abroad.
Contrary to the illusions spread by the hateful far-right in France, who still haven't come to terms with Algeria's independence, President Abdelmadjid Tebboune's pardon, issued on the occasion of July 5th, did not include Boualem Sansal, who remains a prisoner of his own outdated ideas. His case is now being used as a pretext for another smear campaign against Algeria. France, which has over 2,200 citizens jailed abroad, says nothing about them, yet expects Algeria to answer for prosecuting one of its own, a man educated, employed, and retired in Algeria. Sansal is not a hostage. He was tried for matters affecting national unity, a red line for any sovereign nation. France's reaction reflects a lingering colonial mindset and political opportunism.
Shifting focus to the war in Gaza now. At least 6 Zionist soldiers were killed and 1 remains missing following a major resistance ambush in Beit Hanun, north of Gaza Strip. According to Hebrew media reports, 10 others were critically wounded when Palestinian fighters detonated an explosive targeting an armored vehicle. Among the wounded is reportedly a senior Israeli officer. Occupation shelling killed at least 10 Palestinians, including 2 women in Khan Yunis, south of Gaza Strip, on Monday. Strikes targeted tents and gatherings of displaced people, leaving many trapped under rubble, according to Nasser Medical Complex. Overnight, Zionist airstrikes hit a clinic in central Gaza City, killing 6 Palestinians, including a 5-month-old baby, and wounding 15 others. Palestinian civil defense teams recovered 11 bodies from destroyed buildings in northern Gaza, including children as well. Strikes also hit Sabra, Fawakhir, Tel El-Hawa and Al-Tufah neighborhoods, killing several displaced people. Drone attacks in Jabalia and Beit Lahia claimed more lives, while fresh strikes near Nusayrat camp killed 2 more and injured others, mostly children.
The clinic is out of service, sheltering displaced, most of them from Shujaiya neighborhood. We were safely sleeping at 11:30 p.m. We were surprised with missile falling on us. With the bombing, we didn't know where to go, while didn't know where the bombing was. We pulled the bodies from in here. May they rest in peace. Body parts, babies no more than 5 months and 2 years old. I also pulled my children from under the rubble. They were wounded. Some of them are in the hospital and some are in the house.
The Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza reported 105 martyrs and 356 wounded in the past 24 hours alone. In a statement on Monday, it said the ongoing Zionist aggression has killed at least 57,523 Palestinians and injured 136,617 since the occupation aggression began. Occupation forces opened fire on starving, displaced Palestinians seeking food aid in Rafah, killing 5 people and injuring over 40, according to Gaza's ambulance and emergency department. Several victims were critically wounded, including gunshot injuries to the head. The Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza reported that 758 Palestinians have been killed and over 5,005 wounded in attacks on 8 centers. In the past 24 hours, hospitals received 7 martyrs and 74 wounded after occupation forces targeted starving civilians near US-backed aid sites, now described as death traps. The infamous death traps set for starving Palestinians waiting for food aid, only to be gunned down by occupation forces as if it were a game. These daily massacres have continued for over a month, especially near the so-called American Zionist Aid Center in Gaza Strip. Zafar Jani reports now.
At Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis, wounded Palestinians continue to arrive in large numbers, most of them suffering from gunshot wounds. According to medical staff, the majority of injuries are ballistic, targeting the chest, head, abdomen and legs. All the victims had been trying to reach aid distribution points, which Palestinians now call death traps, run by the US and the Zionist entity.
I was on my way to the aid distribution zone when I got shot in the leg. I lost consciousness and my friends rushed me to the hospital. They let us in like dogs and threw the aid at us. People were scrambling to grab it. Then the Americans fired tear gas. I got hit in the face. I couldn't see for half an hour.
After actively working to shut down major food programs in Gaza, including UNRWA, the Zionist occupation, in coordination with the United States, introduced a new system for aid distribution. But what unfolds was more like a video game than humanitarian relief. Starving civilians lured into open zones only to be chased and shot at by heavily armed soldiers. A deadly trap, the latest tactic to kill even more Palestinians.
Both the Americans and Israelis opened fire. They gather people and shoot at the slightest movement. Most of the shots are direct. These so-called aid zones are nothing but execution grounds.
By using hunger as a weapon of war, the Zionist entity had already crossed every imaginable red line. But this so-called aid system has pushed the horror even further. It's a brutal display of the inhumanity Palestinians have faced for the past 21 months. According to the latest UN figures, at least 613 Gazans died between late May and late June while trying to access food assistance.
To another development in the Middle East still. Israeli occupation warplanes bombed 3 seaports and a power station in Yemen overnight Sunday. Houthi media reported strikes on the ports of Hudaydah, Ras Isa and Salif, along with the Ras Al Khatib power station in Hudaydah.
نقول للعدو الصهيوني
To the reckless and doomed Zionist enemy we say, by the power of God and with His permission, no matter how hard you strike, no matter how much you intensify your attacks, even if the sky were to fall upon us, we will not waver in our support for our brothers in Palestine. Our stance remains firm. Your attacks will only strengthen our resilience, deepen our determination, and reinforce our steadfastness in standing with them. This will not stop us from helping our brothers in Gaza, nor from supporting our Mujahideen brothers in Al-Qassam brigades, Quds brigades, and all our factions.
As a response, Houthi military spokesman Yahya Sarriya confirmed that Yemeni air defenses repelled much of the Zionist aggression on Hudaydah. He said the strikes were confronted with a large batch of locally made surface-to-air missiles, forcing many warplanes to withdraw.
Our defenses, with the help of God Almighty, successfully confronted the Zionist aggression against our country and thwarted its plans to target several Yemeni cities. This was achieved by forcing a number of combat formations participating in the aggression to leave the airspace without being able to carry out any strikes. The interception operation was conducted using several domestically produced surface-to-air missiles.
Houthi military spokesman Yahya Sarriya announced joint qualitative operations on Monday involving missile and drone strikes targeting vital sites of the Zionist entity in the occupied Palestinian territories.
The missile forces of Yemeni armed forces have conducted a precise military operation targeting designated airport in occupied Jaffa region using a Palestine II hypersonic ballistic missile. By the grace of God, the strike successfully hit its target, triggered mass panic among Zionist settlers, and led to the suspension of airport operation.
Turning to other news, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian revealed in a televised interview Monday that the Zionist occupation attempted to assassinate him by bombing a location where he was holding a meeting. He did not disclose when the attack took place.
Yes, they tried. They acted in that way, but they failed. It wasn't the United States behind the attempt on my life. It was Israel. I was in a meeting, and they tried to bomb the area where we were gathered. That was Israel.
Moving on to another topical news story, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to impose an extra 10% tariff on countries backing what he called the anti-U.S. policies of the BRICS group. In a Truth Social post, he ruled out any exceptions but offered no details on the policies or how nations would be classified.
Any country aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of BRICS will be charged an additional 10% tariff. There will be no exceptions to this policy.
For its part, China firmly rejected any notion of confrontation by BRICS nations following U.S. President Donald Trump's threat to impose extra tariffs on countries supporting BRICS policies. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning stressed that BRICS is committed to cooperation, not to rivalry, and reiterated Beijing's opposition to trade and tariff wars, emphasizing the need for fair, win-win partnerships.
The
BRICS mechanism is an important platform for cooperation among emerging markets and developing countries. It advocates openness, inclusiveness, and mutually beneficial cooperation. It does not engage in bloc confrontation and is not targeted at any specific country. As for the tradition tariffs, we have reiterated our position many times that there are no winners in trade wars or tariff wars, and protectionism leads nowhere.
In a similar reaction, the Kremlin confirmed on Monday that BRICS has never sought to undermine other nations. Spokesman Dmitry Peskov stressed that BRICS cooperation has never been and will never be directed against any third country. His remarks came in response to U.S. President Donald Trump's threat to impose 10% tariffs on countries adopting what he called BRICS anti-American policies, as the group holds its summit in Brazil.
We have indeed seen such statements by President Trump, but it is very important to note here that the uniqueness of a group like BRICS is that it's a group of countries that share common approaches and a common worldview on how to cooperate based on their own interests. And this cooperation within BRICS has never been and will never be directed against any third countries.
Shifting focus to the war in Sudan, at least 5 people were killed and others injured after the Rapid Support Forces shelled Naivasha market in Al-Fashir's Abu Shuk camp north of Darfur. Local sources confirmed the attack as the RSF intensified artillery strikes across Al-Fashir, defying UN calls for a week-long truce to deliver urgent aid. The worsening shortage of international aid is deepening the suffering of Sudanese refugees across camps in 7 countries in the Horn of Africa and the Sahel. The UN warned that assistance to over 4 million people who fled the war since its outbreak 3 years ago is at risk of being cut off. Salman Nassif has more.
On the edge of the Chadian border, Sudanese refugees, escaping the devastation of war, have taken refuge in the Tina Jagraba camp. Since April, over 46,000 displaced people have arrived, seeking safety and shelter. Among them is Musa Mansour, who trekked hundreds of kilometers on foot from Darfur, a grueling journey for anyone, but especially for a man nearing 70.
Only God can understand the hell we went through to escape Zamzam. Those were extremely difficult moments. We had to hide for 3 days because of the intense fighting and war all around us.
Their arrival to safe ground did not erase the horrors they endured and the hardships of the crisis. They bear shocking testimonies, leaving behind nothing but scars and tears.
They're killing people in front of our eyes, and I don't know, they do bad thing for us. I don't know about the others, but me, myself, I will never return back there.
The harsh conditions faced by the refugees have impacted even international organizations which have been unable to provide adequate humanitarian aid. However, reports document that over 4 million people have crossed Sudan's borders into 7 neighboring countries.
Over 4 million people have fled across borders to at least 7 countries in the region. WFP operations in all those countries are critically underfunded. Without further contributions, assistance for Sudanese refugees will completely cease in the coming months. Sudanese refugees deserve protection and assistance, not further hunger and despair. WFP will continue to serve them, but we need the funding to save lives.
They fled the war seeking safety, but instead faced even greater hardships in shelters and camps that lacked basic living conditions. In these refugee camps, they also suffered from severe shortages of aid and food.
Now here's Sofian Kantouri in the news in brief.
A Lebanese citizen was martyred in a Zionist occupation strike on town of Deir Kaifa in southern Lebanon. According to the Lebanese National Agency, a Zionist drone targeted a vehicle in Deir Kaifa in the Deir district, resulting in the martyrdom of 1 person. 4 people were killed and 36 wounded in Russian missile strikes on several parts of eastern and southern Ukraine. Ukrainian local authorities reported 2 dead and 2 injured in Sumy, 1 dead and 2 injured in Kherson, 1 fatality in Odessa, 27 injuries in Kharkiv, and 5 injuries in Dnipropetrovsk. The death toll from the flash floods in Texas reached 91, the White House said, citing numbers provided by the Department of Homeland Security. Officials expected the toll to rise as search teams waded through mud-laden riverbanks and flew over flood-stricken landscape, even as they still hope to find more survivors. One person was killed by a falling tree near Milan as a powerful storm battered the northern Italian city after days of high temperatures. The 63-year-old woman died in the west of Milan as she was returning from a walk with the two other people who were injured in the incident and have been hospitalized.
And that's the end of our news program for tonight. Thank you for watching and good night.